What is going on, guys? The Difference is All Gaming with my review of Akame Got Killed episode 4. And this episode, it was so freaking amazing. We had such an incredible fight, and we also had some pretty good story progression as well. I just love the episode so freaking much. But the episode itself, it starts off where we have Zanku, who's a character that we saw at the end of last week, and now once again he is out causing havoc. And we see now that right now he is killing his next victims. And so we see at first he already killed this man, but then he would hold this woman in a chokehold, as we saw that he had her body off the ground. And this woman here, she was begging him for her life, and she was even willing to do anything, for him to spare her. And so we learned that Zanku, this guy here, he definitely loved to talk. And this woman, and because of that, this woman here, she had agreed to actually, talk with him. So that way, he could possibly spare her, since he didn't like talking so much. But because of that, he only had, just one question for her. And it was, how would it feel to have your head decapitated from your body? And so at first, just this woman was confused. You could tell that from her reaction. But then out of nowhere, you just see Zanku cutting off her head from her body. And that right there, which is pretty freaking brutal. But then we go to our gang here, Night Raid. And we see now that Tatsumi, he is now trading with Blue Line, and we see now that Tatsumi is definitely struggling with this, because he is wielding this massive sword, and obviously he not used to swinging something that big, because that sword right there, it is at least 3 times bigger than a sword that he normally wields. So that right there, he was not used to that weight. But then we had Bulan, who was wielding even a heavier weapon with no problem. He was trying to encourage Tatsumi, and show him the proper way to do it, so that way he can last twice as long when it came to training. But while Bulan was touching him and so close, we have Akame here who came to get him, and you just see Tatsumi, backing him out of nowhere. And that right there was hilarious. But Akame here, she came to get Tatsumi so that they could go make breakfast. And we see now that what they were making, I forgot what it was, but Tatsumi was very surprised that they were eating it for breakfast. But now we see that when they were eating, we see that I believe it was Shele and Mime, they weren't there at all. And we see now that Akame, she not wasted a second, and she actually ate their breakfast. Now this girl can definitely eat, but it was funny though how just a little bit after Akame finished eating their breakfast, we have Shayla here. She had finally woke up and came. She wondering where their food was, and that right there was funny. And even though they had just been eating breakfast, we have Akame already planning what they were going to eat for lunch. So this girl, she can definitely eat. But then we go to their boss, who were talking to one of their lower rank guys, pretty much a foot soldier. But this guy was badly injured, but luckily he didn't make it to them, and he had information about Zanku. And so now that he's dead, we have their boss. She now returns, and we see now that they actually plan on taking out Zanku, and we learn more about him. He was pretty much an executioner for the prime minister. And because of that, that right there kind of drove him crazy. And so he had left them, but he did not leave before stealing himself his own imperial weapon, or the Teigu or Tengu. But now we get some more background on them. And it was how the first emperor, even though he had knew that one day he would die, he had once leave behind something that would ensure his kingdom's future. And so he had all these people gather the best material and the best blacksmith, and they made these 48 different imperial arms that you pretty much cannot find anywhere else nowadays. It would be impossible to make these. But the thing is, even though there were like 48 of them, and that right there definitely seemed like a a low number. But even though there were 48, there was actually a war back then, and like over half of those Imperial arms, they are now like spread out throughout the world. So some of them, like they're out there, and people have not found them yet. But every member of the Night Raid, they do have one, except for Tatsumi. And so we actually learned, about what they can do, even though it was kind of shown previously. Like, we have Akame here with her sword, Morasame. I'm probably not saying that right, but we all know that, like, her sword is pretty much, like, one slice equals, like, certain death. Because, like, even if she cut you a little bit, like a poison will like still get into your body, and that right there will kill you. We have Leone that has like this belt that will like transform her into a beast. We have Mind with Pumpkin, who we all know, like the more dangerous she gets in, the stronger it will be. We have Blue Land with that demon armor, and then we have Shele, whose scissors can cut through anything, and we also have Lubok, who has all those wires and can produce them in like almost an infinite amount, because it seems like that. So they're all pretty interesting, but I think it's pretty obvious, the most broken one, or the most overpowered one, it is definitely Akame's, because that right there is crazy. Like even a little cut, because even if she like makes a mistake, because that one weakness hers, like when she takes care of the blade and tends to it, if she like cuts herself even a little bit, she's dead. So even though it definitely seems broken, it still has like that one weakness, because if the Wilder is not careful, that right there can like certainly cost her life. And so we also learned that like that Zank, he has one as well, but sadly they couldn't get any information out on there. But now we see the like Night Raid, they go out to the city, and they're like trying to like lure them out, but they have to work in pairs. And we also learned that like when two Imperial Arm users or Tengu users, whenever they cross paths and fight, one of them must die. That right there is like a rule that they all have to follow. Because even though, like their fight can end in a draw, one of them must definitely die no matter what. And so now we have them all, like paired up. But the main pair was Tatsumi and Akame, because we saw Zank. He was like high up. He was like watching over them, and of course, he was like picking which one to go after first. And Tatsumi, like being a rookie and not really, an assassin just yet, he was kind of like easy pickings for Zank. And so now when like Akame and Tatsumi were eating, Tatsumi here had to use the bathroom, and so he had left for a moment, but he didn't tell Akame, but try to figure out what it was. And so when he was using the bathroom somewhere, like in this alley, we actually see, like Sayo appear before him. And so that right there, it really got to him. And so he like chases her to like to the open area, and we see now that when he hugs her, that right there is when the truth is revealed, that is actually Zank. And we also learn about his Tengu, which is like this device that was like on his head. And this Tengu, it is definitely impressive. Now, obviously, it does have like one drawback, which the characters, like did kind of, like point out, because even though he can see what they're doing, if they're too fast for him, he cannot react in time. So that right there is like definitely, one flaw to it. But he can also, like make illusions. He can read, read their minds and their hearts. And I also believe that he can also predict what they're gonna do. So like that right there was like three main features that it could do. And we see now that because of that, Tatsumi here, he was definitely struggling. But I will say, for him going up against a Tengu user, even though he did not have one, it was definitely impressive. But he really got messed up, because we saw what he did in the last episode, or I believe it was the second episode, where he fought that the other guy, and he did pretty well. But this right here was our first time really seeing him struggling. And if Akame didn't come, and she like definitely arrived in style, if she never came there, or didn't find him in time, it definitely would have been too late. And so obviously we all know that Akame here is definitely stronger than Tatsumi because she had been, way more fights than him. And so that especially, with her rough upbringing, she is definitely more skilled than him. And so we see now that at first, at first we see Zank, he was like really excited for this, and we see that when he uses his Tengu or Imperial arm to show Akame, her most loved one, which was her sister, you would think at first that she'll be freaked out at this, but when like Zank had rushed in there to actually try to kill her, Akame here was definitely not playing around, and she actually attacked with no hesitation at all. And that right there was crazy because this warrior is supposed to be her most loved one, and yet Akame will like kill her with no problem. And she even said that because this here was her sister, she had wanted to kill her as swiftly as possible, and that right there was awesome. And so we see now that like after a couple of exchanges between them, we see now that like Zank Blaze, they were actually starting to break. And so Akame here, who got like really serious, she actually managed to break them. And before I forget, we have Zank here asking her if she like ever heard the voices, or what did she do when she does hear them, because this guy has killed so many people. Like they hold this like great grudge against him, and so sometimes he hear like these voices because these people like want him to die and drag him to hell. And so when Akame like does kill him, because we see that at one point like after she broke his blades, she had like cut him right in the neck, and that right there was like pretty epic. But we see now that after that, and he like fell to the ground, she was saying that he should not hear the voices anymore, and you could just tell that like these voices are what drove him like pretty much insane, because after she had destroyed these like earpieces, which I'm pretty sure were like blocking out the sound, that right there like finally freed him, and in death he like found peace. So even though like this guy, he was definitely bad, they did somewhat try to get him like a peaceful death. But that fight was definitely epic, and even like Tatsumi fight against them, that right there was like pretty good as well. And so after they defeat that guy, that right there is like pretty much where the episode ends, because we go back to their base, and we have Tatsumi. He was like at his friend's grave again, because obviously seeing Sayo definitely brought back some memories. But it wasn't long before Tatsumi came out there and get him, because it was time for them to make dinner, and once again they were going to have meat. And so the episode, it definitely ended on like a rather funny note, and that right there is not a bad thing. But because of how awesome the episode was, and because how much character progression we're getting with like Tatsumi and Akame, I gotta give it a 10 out of 10, because to me it was that freaking good. But of course I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, and as always, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because that really helps me out. And you guys take it easy, and I will see you all next time.